Okay, the last thing we mentioned, Yodar Amud Aleph. The last thing we mentioned is that if you have a partner in your field and your friend's partner, your friend's ox got gored by your ox or patur, because you're field sharing the field. And the Pasuk said it has to be your friend's field. Okay, if that's so, but if Yosef said, if there's a yard that belongs to a courtyard belongs to partners or an inn, you are hayav for shin and regel. Exactly the opposite we just said. Jesus to Rabbi Lazar, against a question against Rabbi Lazar. You think that's a good question? Matnita milo pligi. It's a machloke braitot. Like we see a different braita. There were four rules that Rabbi Elazar would say by damages. Any place that's it belongs to the damaged party, but not for the damager. Hayav bakol, the damager is chayav, right? There's no business being there. The mazik if it's the damager's property, but not the damagee's property, patumi kol. No one told you to trespass. Lazev belongs to both. Kigon for example, a yard belonging to both, or an open field. Patur ba al shin haregel, you're patur on shin haregel, right? Because both of you have rights to be there. Goring, pushing, biting, sitting, or kicking, right? All these things are unnatural items. Even biting, don't think that's considered shen. Shen is eating, which means doing something for pleasure, to benefit from, right? We give another example of the animal itches itself against the wall and breaks the wall. Biting, however, is referring to a case where it's no hana'ah, right? A bit of glass cup. That's no hana'ah, right? That's purely just to create damage. Tam, if it's a tam, you pay half damages. Mu'ad, and if it's a mu'ad, you pay full damages. Lo zev, but let's say it's not meant for either of them. They go on chatzer she'eno shneim. Let's say they both landed in a yard that belonged to a third party. Hayav bo ashen b'regli yachav and everything. All those cases again, we pay full damages by a muad. However, we see in the case of a yard that belongs to partnership or a open field, proof for himself. Rabbi Elazar says, I proof for myself. A different brayta is a proof for me that you are patur. The Gemara says, kasha dadi, is it really a contradiction? The Gemara says, no. In that brayta, in the field that we said they're patur is where it's a field that is meant for both of them to be together. For both, not only for their animals, but even for their fields, like their fruit field, their fruits, the produce, right? Therefore, if they do damage to each other, it's fine. However, when you're chayav, right? In a case where it's supposed to be a spot for the oxen, but not for the fruits, and your ox walked into the fruits and damaged it. So yeah, you're partners, but you weren't supposed to be there. Because regarding to shen, it's considered a trespassing property. And it's also the Gemara says, we can also prove it. Because we gave a case that's similar, right? Yosef said a partnership field or an inn field, an innkeeper, right? Inn is a place where animals are not supposed to be, right? That's why we're saying that's the case where it's a separate field and you weren't supposed to be there. That's where you have. And the other brayta, our brayta, Rabbi Elazar, we also brought a case of a valley, open field. And that's why it means that they were supposed to be there. We compared it to a case where it was a open field, that even with this partnership, but they mix and match everything together. And that's why you are patur in that case, shma mina. Okay. Since it's set aside for perot, since it's set aside for fruits, how are you chayav for shen regel? Right, we said before, in order to be a chayav for someone for a field, you have to be in the other person's field, a different person's field, a place yani where you're not supposed to be, right? And this is yours. Where it says v'leka doesn't exist. Amar Le'Baya answers given the enemy yochelet l'shvarim, since it's not set aside for oxen, and it's trespassing onto a field of fruits. So the acher karin it's as if it's another field, as if it belongs to someone else, even though it technically belongs to a partnership of you and your fellow friend. But since it's not supposed to be there, it's considered a third field, a separate field. Let's just say there's no machloket at all. Same way, there's no machloket, but there's no machloket amarim, meaning Rav Chisda and Rav Lazar also don't disagree. It could be. If you want to say that they disagree, they disagree and over the question and answer of Rabbi Zira and Abaye, right? Earlier we said that what's considered a different field? Is it considered a different field even if it belongs to you guys, but you're not supposed to be there? The animal, it's a no animal zone. That's the if you want to say that is a machloket between the Amoraim, that's machloket. One opinion would hold no, one opinion would hold yes. That's where you're patur or chayef. Okay, Gufa. Earlier we said there was 4 rules that he said by Nizakin. Any place that is a place for the damagee and not for the damager, hayav bakol, you're hayav because your animal trespassed. Ala kol loktani, ela hayav bako. It doesn't say you're chayav on everything. You're chayav bako, in everything. What does that mean? Bekule neze. It sounds like you're chayav full damages, even for tam. You're chayav nezek shalem, not half. Rabbi Tarfon, Mani, who's the opinion going according to? Rabbi Tarfon, he Amar mishuna keren b'haser v'nizak. Even if you have a mishuna, abnormal, something that's not normal, which means a tam. Tam is not normal. That's why you're paying chatzi nezek the first 3 times. You can't charge the guy full price. It's not a normal occurrence. Therefore, you pay half damage. But it says, according to Tarfon, even if it happened in the damagee's location in his land, even his mishuna tatam, nizek shalem is paid full damages. One second, the next part of the Baita says, lo zev. It happened in a neutral field, like for example, a third party's field. Hayav ba al hashen ba al my lo zev. What does it mean? Not for this, not for that. Ilim lo zev means it doesn't belong to either of them. El da'acher belongs to someone else completely. It has to be where it consumed a different field. It didn't happen in the damagee's field. Ella, pshita lo zev lo ella dechad. Rather, it means it happened in the damagee's field. Find that bright said over there. Tam mishlam chatzi nezek mishlam chatzi shalem. It depends if it's tam chatzi nezek and muad is nezek shalem. So why would you say earlier that you don't pay chatzi nezek in this scenario by keren? This is according to Chachamim. The amre mishuna keren b'chaser hanizak chatzi nezek mehu mishlam. Abnormal, yani a tam that happened in the damagee's location, you pay chatzi nezek. Reisha Rabbi Tarfon v'sefer Rabbanan. Seemingly, you're splitting the whole brayta. The first half is according to Rabbi Tarfon, which says you are chayav nezek shalem even by a tam, and the second part seemingly says you're patu chatzi nezek by a tam. So is it what 2 rabbis? The Rabbanan is the first half, Rabbi Tarfon the second half, vice versa. Rabbi Tarfon the first half, Rabbi Chami second half. Where I said and could be. The ha'amar le Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda, we see Rabbi Shmuel to Rabbi Yehuda. Shinena, smart one, right? Sharp one. Right? We had this many times before. Equal to his student, sharp one. Shinena. Shavok matitin v'ta'abatrai. Stop talking about the Mishnah and follow after me. Yani stop trying to explain it according to one opinion and listen to me. Listen to what I'm telling you. The first half is Rabbi Tarfon, the second half is Rabbanan. So we see that you do interpret the Brayta according to 2 opinions. All right, Ravina Mishmei Rava Amar. Ravina said in the name of Rava. Kula Rabbi Tarfon, everything's according to Rabbi Tarfon. Right? Now, how do you explain the second half? Well, my lo zev. What's that last case where it says a third party? Seemingly lo zev perot ela dechad. It refers to a place that's not designated for either one for produce, except for one. Meaning, the one who got damaged, his fruit was supposed to be there. Lazeh ulazeh l'shvarim, but it was designated for both of them to have their oxen. Right? In regarding to Shen, since he ate it, that's considered the damagee's property, right? His fruits were eaten. But regarding to Keren, since they both had options, since they both had permission for the oxen to walk around, and abnormal things were to happen if you have an ox, right? For example, tzorot, the flying pebbles, then chatzi nezek, because it's common, you have oxen there. But if it eats, that's your problem. That's your fault. So, in that case, full damages, and in the second case, if it's ox to ox, it'll be patur, only chatzi nezek. Okay, that's the case. Arba'a shashahav. It's not 4, it's 3, because you're just bringing down another case where it's the own property, right? We have another case of partnership, which was the third case. where it says, Amar Nachman Bar Yitzhak, turning the page, beep, it's 3 rules in 4 different locations, yani 4 places, 4 scenarios. So it's true, yeah, it's 3 rules, but 4 scenarios. New Mishnah. Shum kesef, you could pay for damages with money assessment, money measurement. Shaveh kesef, something with money. Befnei betin, in front of betin. Va'pi edim, with edim. Bnei chorin, with the edim have to be free men. Bnei brit, seemingly has to be Jewish. V'hanashim b'chal nezek, and women also are chayav in nizakim. V'hanizak v'mazik v'tashlemin, and both the damage party and the damager have to be involved in the payment. Right? This Mishnah seemingly we have no idea. We're going to explain every single word of this Mishnah. My shum kesef, what does it mean monetary assessment? Marvida, shum ze lo yeh kesef. This assessment has to be only done with money lost. Tanila had a different bright that says, Parasha hezika talit, if a cow damaged a shirt, or vitalit hezika para, or if a shirt damaged a cow, and ombrim tetse para batalit, don't say, okay, switch. Right? This is not Sidon. The shirts cost $2, the cow costs $3,000. You can't say, oh, you damaged that? Okay, switch with him. No, it's not fair. So Ella Shamin Otobadamim, rather you have to really evaluate it and do the difference. Okay, Shavai Kesef is something worth money. What does that mean? Rabbanan says, Shavai Kesef, monetarily valued, the moment teaches you She'en Bedin Nizgakin Elanen Chasim Sheshnachriyut. The court does not involve itself with anything except for the legit property, right? Which is real estate. But if the guy, before going to Betin, got so upset that he damaged my stuff, that I grabbed your silver cup, Betin govin lo mehen. Betin will say, okay, fine, you grabbed it, we'll let him keep it from it. Okay. Amar more. Shavah kesef, we say something worth money. Only land. My mashma. How do we know that something that means worth money, right? Something that's worth money. It can mean anything. Why does it have to mean karka? Why does it have to mean land? And it can't mean anything that's worth money. When it says my nihu, davar she'en lo ona'ah. When it says it's worth money, it means something that's not in the deen of ona'ah. Ona'ah means price fraud or price gouging. According to halacha, if you pay a sixth of over price, the sale is fraud, and you have to return it. So if you charge 6 out of 100, what's 100 divided by 6? There we go. People are gonna make fun of my math skills. It's around 16%, 16.5%. Right. So if you charge 16.5% over the value, right, 16.5% over the value of this item, then that is considered a fraud, and you have to return the money.
Who defines the value?
I would assume market value. So market value also is very tricky, because technically, if you have, I'm sure this came into, first of all, wholesale, retail, there's also different market values per stage. That's number one. Number two, let's say during COVID, let's say people were up charging for certain items. Is it price gouging? Yes. I'm not going to start bashing people who did what. I'm not saying it's wrong, because also you could say, if I'm selling the mask for 20 times what I paid, but that's also the market value. I'm selling what the market value is right now. So it's only talking about a case where if you have you have an AirPod, I know this is worth $200, and I go over to you and I say, hey, this is $2,000 AirPod. You want to buy it? And you're like, okay, fine. No, that's price gouging. No one's paying $2,000 for this. Okay, so the only times that there is no such thing as price fraud, meaning people can overpay for it without any problems, is by land, slaves, and legal documents. If you want to buy out a legal document, you want to buy a slave, you want to buy property, you can overpay, and you don't have to return it. So, Gemara says it. Davar she'en lo ona'ah is referring to price fraud, and that's the case of shaveh kesef, which means land. Now, Gemara says, 1 second, that's not true. Avadim u'shtarot nami en lehen ona'ah. I know slaves and shtarot documents also have no din of ona'ah. So that can't mean, the our Mishnah can't mean that the specific thing in regarding to money. You said, oh, Shavei Kesef must mean something that does not have price fraud, which is karka. We say that's not true. Slaves and shtarot are also don't have price fraud. Gemara says, davar hanikne bekesef. He's referring to something that's purchased through money, yani real estate. So the Gemara says, Avadim Shar Nami can make kesef. Stays in documents also. Or use money. Ela Marav Ashe, Shave kesef below kesef. Bahana Kulu kesef minu. We say no. It's something that's worth money, but not money itself. It's not actual currency. Avadim is currency. Documents are currency. Movable objects are currency. What's not considered currency but is like money? Real estate. Okay. Tana, Braita, Shavek Kesef Memech in Bentino Niskina Lenachim Betin does not get involved unless it's Karka. Vatanya with different Braita. Yashiv, you shall return the money that I bought Shavek Kesef. Betin has to make sure the money is returned to anything that's involved, even anything that's worth money, even nonsense brand, right? You could return money with brand. So we see that Betin has to get involved with everything, even movable objects. The Gemara says, that's referring to the case of orphans. In that case, Betin has to get involved. One second, someone orphans, right? How do you, 1 second. Only time you could take Yitomim, orphans, property is if it was movable objects. You could only touch the karka, you can't touch the movable objects. But that Braita mentioned earlier that if you grab movable objects, it goes through. But then green lights it. Gemara says no. Is to a case where the guy had grabbed it already while the dad was alive, and that's why it's green lit even after he dies. Okay. In front of Bedin, right? The Mishnah said, this is including a case where a guy sold his property and then goes to Bedin. The Bedin can't grab the property that was sold. 1 second. That's the most famous case. What are you talking about? To lien on the property, Bedin does it all the time. If I lend money to the guy sells his property and then backs out on the loan, of course I could grab his property. Right? That's what loans do. No, it's true. However, that only works in a case of good betin, actual betin. But if you have a betin of 3 regular people without semicha, 3 non-rabbis or Sanhedrin, then they can't grab a lien the property. Next, I'll pay them to use witnesses. This is excluding a case in the case where someone admits to being guilty to a penalty, right? In general, if you deny something, if you deny a penalty, and then Edim testify on you, you have to pay. If you admitted to it, you admitted you stole. If you admitted you stole, you're patur. If they testified on you, you're chayav, and you're chayav a penalty. So now what if you admitted and then Edim came? It's machloket. So this Braita is saying that if you testified in the case of Knas, and then the Edim came, you're patur. That makes sense according to the opinion hold that if you admitted it, then Edim came, you're patur. But according to the opinion holds that even if you admit and it didn't come afterward, you're still chayav. How does he explain this Mishnah? The Gemara says, you need to teach the second half of the Braita. Bnei Horin u'bnei Brit is teaching you the chidush of that you have to have free men, yani not slaves, and Jewish men. What does that mean? Bnei Horin l'ma'utei avadim. Free men means that you can't use slaves. Bnei Brit l'ma'utei avdei kachavim. And Jewish people to exclude non-613. Utshicha. And you need both Braitot. Why do each quote? The Yashmin Eved, only mention Eved. You wouldn't realize that you can't use a goy. Why? Because Mishum de'en lo yachas, he has no yuchasin. Aval nochrid yesh lo yachas imalo. But maybe a Gentile who does have good yuchasin, he has a heritage, right? There is a lineage. There is a Gemara on Sanhedrin talks about having good lineage, and they are believed in certain scenarios. So maybe you might think to be believed in this type of case, betin. Therefore, say no. V'yashmin then nochri. Only taught nochri goy. Maybe you might think a Eved can work. Why? Mishum lo shayach mitzvot. A goy has no mitzvot at all. About Eved the shayach mitzvot, but Eved who does have some mitzvot, right? They do have some mitzvot, and if they get released, they are actually having all mitzvot. Ema lo is maybe you might think should be able to serve as witness. Therefore, we say they're both not good.